Hi everyone, this is Melissa with the Creative Season. Welcome back to the Creative Season channel. We're going to do a beautiful spring wreath, just something simple and fun. I'm going to add some more detail on this one, but I wanted to show you what we're going for. There's tulips on this one. I'll probably do a little bit of a different flower on the next one. I just bought a new sketchbook, and this is a watercolor. It says it's a mixed media, so I wanted just a place to keep a lot of my watercolor sketches. This is 114 pound. I usually like my watercolor paper to be a bit thicker, like 140, but we're gonna play with this. So just in case you are curious about what I'm using this morning. So I have my paper ready to go. I've got my my paint, and we are going to go ahead. We have a nice round tip brush. I'm going to just grab some brown paint this morning. This is, if I'm correct, I believe it's the raw sienna. And I'm not even going to sketch this morning. I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm actually going to turn it horizontal and go ahead and just start moving my brush around. When I do, I'm doing a twiggy wreath. And I'm going to make some longer, some thicker. The idea is just to have them go, and I'll bring it a little bit closer in. You want at first just everything to go in the same direction as if you were just painting in a circle. And if you're like me, my circles are never really perfectly round. That's okay. What you can do is it's a twiggy wreath, so we're going to make it look unusual anyways. Now, if you really wanted it to be perfectly round, you could, for example, take a mason jar or a vase and kind of just set the jar right in the middle of it and then move around it. That might just help give you some guidance. But that's just an idea if the symmetry really throws you off a little bit. But what I normally do is after I make one round, I'll make a bigger one. Add in some thicker wreaths. I'm usually looking at my twiggy wreath. I've got one on the door. Usually they overlap each other, right? So I'll take a thicker one and kind of make it go under and over, have it come out here a little bit. And then again on the top, we have a branch over here. I've got one over here. Now I want to keep in mind that I want a place to put my flowers, right? So I don't want to fill in too much. I'm going to just let that dry for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and plan. Now we could, in this particular wreath, I had the flowers, the tulips in this case, were going up and around. I'm actually going to add some green into this one. So on this one though, I'm thinking that I might even do like little buds like this one, or even little flowers like this. Just really pretty, and I'm going to use some spring colors. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to grab my green first. So that way I'm going to do some guiding here so I know where my flowers are going to go. And in between some of the twiggy wreaths, the twiggy stems, I'm going to try to avoid it. I'm going to go ahead and just create some stems and just have them coming out. Nothing too big, just small ones. I'll have them coming out over here, almost as if they're winding through the wreath itself. I really enjoy wreaths. I always think it's fun though to think of the idea of the flowers and the branches intertwined. So hopefully you can see that. Hopefully too, it was pretty quiet this morning. I know there's a lawnmower going out in the sides. Let me need to close a window. The birds are also going full force this morning, which I love. I love the sound of the birds in the spring, I'm sorry. So again, I'm going to do some more leaves around here. And this is the part too. Do I want the flowers to go all the way around, or do I want them almost kind of climbing up? And I think I kind of like the idea of them climbing up. So once again, I am just going to let them climb all the way around the wreath and in through here. And I'm thinking that the bulbs are going to come out of the side. So now that I've kind of created the greenery, I'm going to grab my color, and this is a good time to decide, do I want yellow, do I want pink, do I want orange or violet? Where might my beautiful blooms, what kind of flowers are they going to be? We want to just do some wild variety. Do we want to create tulips? Now, I didn't quite do the tulip style, right? Because if I was doing tulips, the leaves, the stems would be much different. So I think what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to create a couple. I'm going to do some smaller flowers and some larger flowers. I think over here, we'll bring it in a little bit closer again, straighten that up so you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to just make some beautiful Not too wet, otherwise it will run all over the place. But you see how with this flower, I just think it's really pretty. We have just lots of those beautiful little petals everywhere. So I'm going to create that sense of lots of little petals, lots of little flowers, and just moving around. Now I do want a focal point for the wreath, right? So I'm thinking too, I'm going to need something that's a little bit bigger, something like a bulb over here. And I'm thinking too, I want to kind of creep with the pink and purple thing for this one. And the other one, I have some orange and yellow going on. It just creates a different sense. I'm going to add some purple to the pink, kind of create a dark purple. Maybe it's a carnation, I'm not sure. But we're going to go over here and I'm going to create a sense of a bud, a larger one. It's not quite popped out. We'll bring the green back around. Over here though, down below, I will create that sense of a flower that's opening up. Just like in here. And I'm just moving around. I'm leaving some white, right? So we've got lots of white moving around. And then we continue. I'm going to add a little bit more over here. And then I'm going to go back to the pink. I'm going to dab a little bit more over here. I think though, for the sake of, we always like an odd number, I'm going to create another one over here. And this one I'm going to do a bit bigger. So let's get a little dramatic there. And we're going to create a bigger sense of like a carnation. A carnation, I don't have any peonies right now. I am so excited for when they come. I always feel like their season is quite small. But you see now with the bigger flower, I really do need a bigger stem, right? So it can hold it. So I'm going to go back to my green. I'm going to let that dry for just a minute, because if I don't, I'm going to be sorry later. I'm going to go back over here with this one and put that green. It's molding into the paint a little bit. That's okay. That's what I get sometimes a little bit nervous about. We'll bring this up. I'm going to go back and get some more green. And then right down here, I need a bigger stem. And pulling that right over here. And we are going to twist that around this side of the wreath, coming through. I'm thinking too, now that I have a little bit more of a circle, I'm going to go ahead and thicken up those branches in a minute. I put my wreath, I should have probably lowered a bit, but this is a sketch, just plain in the sketchbook, right? And I can always cut it out later. I'll show you another one that I was working on that I did on a much bigger paper so I wouldn't run into this. Now I'm going to grab some more of the brown. I'm actually going to add a little bit of the green to the brown. The reason I'm doing that is instead of creating a new color, I like using the same colors and just using them to create shadows and darkening them up. I'm going to go over here, make sure you can see that. And you can see too, see just by adding green, there's just a different color to the brown. Creating that sense again of the twigs going in and out. And if you wanted to add some of the twiggier twigs that are poking out and around, feel free to do that if you want to create a sense of shadow. This is a good time for that too. I feel like I need a thicker one right down here to create that little bit more sense of a circle. And I'm going to come down here as well. We'll create a sense of some shadowing down here. We'll let that watercolor blend. Depending on how wet your watercolors are, they'll start moving and grooving in with one another, which is really a lot of fun. It's not so fun when the brown moves into the pink, right? We don't want that. But when you have the different colors, the complementary colors of the wreath, it starts to look really, instead of all separate pieces, it starts to really look like it belongs together. I'm going to add a little bit more green to that brown, and I'm going to even add just some little twiggies. Just little twiggies sticking off here and there, just as they do. I'm going to reevaluate my flowers here too. Where do I need some darker colors? Now this is a fun project idea too. If you wanted to make, for example, a Mother's Day card for your mom or for the moms in your life, this can be a lot of fun to create for them. or to create even a sense of creating that wreath, cutting it out and then framing it. You could easily put their name, or you can put a verse or a piece of poetry on the side. That would be really, really pretty. I'm going to bring it back out now so you kind of get the sense of the whole feeling, the feeling of the whole picture. And you can see too, I'm like, gosh, I really do want some more color. There's a lot of brown, but I want to do some more of the smaller flowers. So I'm going to put those up there. Also, I want to make this flower bigger, I think. Now, I do have that green moving in, which I'm not thrilled about, but I'm going to extend the flower. There we go. That's going to help. I also can take a dry brush. If I had a dry brush, ooh, sometimes, oh, here it is, and dab out some of that paint. So if you ever, you can take a piece of a towel, paper towel, cloth towel, or you could take a dry brush. I learned this from another artist, and then just dab out some of that extra paint, right? You can see how I'm like, oh, it almost works like an eraser. And then I can just drop more paint in and see I've gotten rid of that green, which is fantastic because I didn't want to, it was the green and the pink can sometimes turn to brown, which we do not want. So I'm going to let that dry for just a second. While that is drying, because I want to add in some more paint, I'm going to go back to these lovely tulips over here. And this is one that I had done some pen work as a sketch first. So I had sketched in the pen work for the tulips. Then I did the watercolor, and then finally I did the paint on top of that. I want to go back, and now I do want to grab a little bit more brown. We're going to deepen some things up here. Now I also needed to add some green. You can see where I was starting to go out with the brown, or with the sketches, but I never got to it. So first I'm going to just create a sense of darker brown with some more twigs. Add some green to my brown to darken it up. Right over here, we had bled a little bit, that's okay. Doing another layer of paint really starts to add definition. So that's another reason why I will let them sit and then come back to them. And we're doing a little twig ears over here, just showing emphasizing the movement, right, of the twigs. I really love a twiggy wreath because I feel like you can use it all year long. It's not as seasonal, or you can change it up and just put different flowers on it, or leave it up as by itself, right? But when we paint them, I do like to add the flowers. I have just a plain twiggy wreath on my door right now. I meant to put decorations on it for Christmas, but that just never happened. Okay, that's the way it goes some years. That was, of course, Christmas is several months behind us. So maybe this year I will add some decor to it. Okay, so I am just doing a little bit of green. I was just imagining, I had never seen tulips on a wreath before, and I was playing with this idea of creating a wreath with tulips, which are just some of my favorite spring flowers. And I'm not going to add a lot of green. I'm thinking those leaves are so thick, would you wrap them around, or would you just maybe stick them around the edges of the flowers? I'm thinking I would just stick them around the edges. Just a little bit of green, nothing overwhelming. I'm going to then take my larger paintbrush and just take some pink, really water it down nicely. This is the phthalo pink, if I'm correct, and it's a brighter pink, and I just wanted to add some brightness. It was a nice light sketch, but I really wanted it to pop a little bit more. So adding some pink in there. Now I am going to add a bit of pink right on the orange, and then what I'm going to do is drop a bit of more orange in there. So it's going to be a really vivid orange, and I'm using a red orange. I think this is cadmium yellow orange, if I'm correct, and just dropping the paint on there. I want the paint, if I can get it wet enough, just to dance. So you have the idea of just a lot of colors just molding into each other. I'm not painting them on flat. I'm letting them kind of move and make their own design. I'm going to grab some yellow, and the fun thing with orange is if I want to, I can also take this cadmium yellow, and this is a cadmium yellow medium that I'm using, and drop it in on top of the yellow, and maybe though a little bit on the orange. Now I will say Rinse out your brush really, really well. I'm gonna come in a little bit closer. And that's really looking, that's quite the transformation, isn't it? It was pretty faint, it was pretty pale, but even with just a little bit of branches, with a little bit of green, and then adding some, just another layer of color. And I'm gonna add just a bit of orange to my yellow over here, just to kind of give that a bit of a pop. Just a little bit. See how that adds? It feels like it's round. It feels like it's not sticking flat to the page. I love that. I really love that. And you know, I think it would be fun. I'm going to do another little one just for the fun of it right over here. Sometimes if I like it a lot, I get a little carried away. So I'm going to try not to do that today and add too many colors and too much to it. We'll add just this one here, and then I can always come back. There we go. And I can do a little bit of pin so it kind of matches the other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We always want an odd number of flowers or leaves or petals. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should probably put a little bit more green somewhere. That way, again, we're going to darken this guy up just a little bit. Darken him up. Put a little bit down here. Maybe I'll just, I think I'm going to go ahead and just put right over here a little hint of a stem. But again, yeah, look, make sure there's odd colors. See that pink escaped? That's okay. I'm going to add some green. That'll deep darken it up. So I'll go ahead and darken it up over here. Don't be afraid to go bold. You're not going to ruin it. And if you do feel like you ruin it, well, we'll cut it up and use it in a collage, or most likely we can take that, again, that dry brush, take out a little bit of the extra paint, sketch it, but don't throw away your art. We can always create something with it. All right, some of my prettiest, my favorite pieces have been pieces that I thought were ruined. But lo and behold, with a little bit of working, they came together. Okay, it's just some light greenery back there. Pretend that maybe there was a little bit moving through. Okay, I like that. I really like that. I'm going to leave that one alone now. I think that's a very cheerful spring wreath. If I do anything to it, I might just take, if I have a dry watercolor brush. I'm moving around the studio here because sometimes what I end up doing is I use all of them, which I think I have today. So I'm just going to go ahead and wipe this one down and see if I can soak up just a little bit. Just move a little bit of it off. There we go. That was pretty dark. And then I'll add a little bit more down here. Again, wanting to make sure that we have the eyes moving around the painting. Okay, that's really, really pretty. Now let's see how our other painting is drying. So I'm gonna move this one out of the way, and we're gonna bring this one back here, and you can see your eye might be catching where we need to add in some more paint. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back in. It's not quite dry, and usually I just add a little bit more paint, and then I'll let it completely dry before I may do some pen work, and I'll decide. I think I will maybe put a verse over here on the side. We'll see what we're gonna do with it. But this is just a fun one. I was thinking about Mother's Day coming up, thinking it might be fun to create some Mother's Day wreaths that will last, right? I love fresh flowers, but I also love painting flowers because you can preserve them on the canvas, on the watercolor paper, on the wood block, whatever you're painting on. Now I wanted to create, I do want to create a sense of the differentiation of color. So I'm going to drop some darker purple in there, some purple and blue, to create the sense of definition. We're going to just let it drop right in there, right in here. This one we have a little bit, I think too, for fun. Create some blue up here. That blue purple, which is really pretty. And a bit over here. And then I think too, we're going to think maybe right out here. It's escaping the wreath. Okay, and just like we had some out here. I got a little bit of dots, that's fine. I'm going to come back too with some darker pink. Oh, I got something on that. And again, this is going to fade. I know that looks a little bit watery right now, but I'm not bothered by that. That will all dry out. It's actually going to be really, really fun. Okay, you guys, so that's about a little bit just shy of 20 minutes. So we're making these gorgeous spring wreaths. So many things we can do with them, but it's also just really fun to get home. If you have had a day, or you just know that you're going to have a day, to just do some wreath. It's just very rhythmic work of just painting around the edges, adding in beautiful flowers. We don't have to be real specific with flowers. They don't have to be really detailed. You create something that's really lovely. I could even use this in a journal page and just even journal my thoughts about an event or wanting to write memories all around the end, and then stick it in a journal, and that would just be lovely. So I will see you guys soon, and enjoy this beautiful day, and I hope you have a wonderful time painting. I'll talk to you soon.